Israel has opened up a dramatic new front in its war against Hamas by striking the group's team in Qatar, where its exiled leadership is based and where talks on a potential Gaza ceasefire have been taking place. Hamas says that 6 people were killed in the airstrike in the capital Doha, but none of its leaders. The explosions happened in the built-up area of the city, near to international embassies and large hotels. The target was in the Qatar district. In a moment, we'll hear from our correspondent who was at the scene and will explain how Israel carried out this audacious attack. There's been international condemnation. Sir Keir Starmer said it violated Qatar's sovereignty and risked further escalation. The White House said President Trump was only notified by the US military as Israel was carrying out the strikes. With our first report tonight, here's Jeremy Bowen.
It was the attack no one expected. In broad daylight near the center of Qatar's capital. It was another demonstration of hard Israeli power, a serious escalation in Israel's multi-front war in the Middle East, and a blow for America's diplomatic efforts to end the Gaza war. Hamas leaders were in this building to discuss the latest American proposals for a Gaza ceasefire. Hamas has listed its dead. It insists they do not include their Doha-based leadership. Israel's most prominent target was this man, Khalil al-Hayya, the chief Hamas negotiator. His leg was broken in July last year in the Israeli attack that killed Ismail Haniyeh, the Hamas political chief, during a visit to Iran. When I met him in Doha a year ago, Haniyeh's death had sent him into the leadership and he was still in a boot and defiant, justifying the 7th of October attacks on Israel.
We had to sound an alarm to the world to tell them that we are a people with a cause and demands. It was a blow to Israel, the Zionist enemy, and a wake-up call to the international community.
During the interview, I was surprised he had so little security. That is because Hamas believed Qatar, center of negotiations, was off limits to attack. Benjamin Netahyahu had other ideas. He was in the command center during the attack and afterwards said Israel would always have its revenge.
Now, they were meeting in the same place, exactly the same place, where they celebrated this savagery almost 2 years ago. At the beginning of the war, I promised that Israel would reach those who perpetrated this horror. And today, Israel and I have kept that promise.
Qatar's Prime Minister Mohammed Al-Thani expressed outrage and said Qatar reserved the right to respond to what he called a barbaric action.
The attack happened at 3:46. The first call we had from an American official was at 3:56, which is 10 minutes after the attack. And after that, President Trump has spoken with His Highness the Emir. He condemned the attack, and the U.S. government position that they have no knowledge about the attack nor any coordination about it until it started to happen.
President Trump was in Qatar in May this year, lavishing praise on his host, the Emir, who promised billions of dollars of investment in the U.S. and later presented him with a new Air Force One presidential jet.
Nice house. Nice house.
Qatar for years has worked to become the Switzerland of the Middle East, a place where enemies in the world's most turbulent region can perhaps find a space for diplomacy. In Washington, the White House press secretary read out a rare rebuke for Israel from President Trump.
Unilaterally bombing inside Qatar, a sovereign nation and close ally of the United States that is working very hard and bravely taking risks with us to broker peace, does not advance Israel or America's goals.
This morning, as Israel prepared to bomb Doha, it dropped leaflets on Gaza City instructing civilians to move south as its offensive gathers pace. Perhaps 1 million people are affected. Gaza's humanitarian catastrophe stands to get even worse as Israel pushes forward.
Well, our correspondent Azadeh Moshiri was at the scene of the blast earlier and sent this update.
This is as close as we could get to the location where the strike has happened. There's a heavy police presence. A lot of streets are cordoned off around here, and you can hear there's a helicopter, multiple helicopters that have been hovering above us. And on the way, we passed Doha's parliament. It's only about a 15-minute drive from the place where all these explosions were heard. This is a residential area that also hosts multiple embassies. And what the Qatari Interior Ministry has been saying is that this is safe now. This is a safe city, and they have reason to want to reassure residents that this was a strike specifically on one of the headquarters of Hamas leaders in Doha.
Azadeh Moshiri there in Doha for us. Well, as we've been hearing, the US was notified of the attack as Israel was striking Doha. But how logistically could Israel have carried out such a strike in Qatar? Our security correspondent Frank Gardner is with me. How could they have done it, Frank?
Well, let's be clear about one thing. There's no way that the Israeli Air Force could have carried this out without first getting some kind of clearance from the US military. Why? Because Qatar hosts the largest US military base in the entire Middle East, a place called Al-Udeid. It's the Coalition Air Operations Centre. And if you remember, that was attacked in June, where the US and Qatar knew exactly what was coming down the road. So my understanding was that it comprised a strike package of up to 15 aircraft, most of which would have been F-35s, stealth bombers or stealth fighters using very advanced technology. They probably flew through Jordan and Saudi Arabia. We don't know. But they would not have been able to approach the target, even using standoff munitions, without getting clearance from the Pentagon that they weren't going to get shot out of the air. The Qataris are absolutely livid. As you've heard, they've condemned this. It's the second time in 3 months that they've been attacked. And they are, not just they, but the whole region is very angry about what they see as a complete infringement of sovereignty of Qatar national territory.
Frank, thank you. Frank Gardner there. Well, let's get a final word from Sarah Smith in Washington. And Sarah, President Trump making it clear that he's not pleased.
No, definitely not. We haven't heard from him directly himself yet, but you don't have to read too far between the lines of the official statement that we've had to see just quite how angry he is. It is very surprising that the White House wasn't given some advance notice of this attack from Israel, that they had to hear about it from their own military. You'd obviously spotted what was going on from that huge airbase that Frank was talking about there. And you could see in Jeremy's report what the press secretary had to say about how this doesn't advance America or Israel's goals. We know that President Trump spoke to the Emir of Qatar after this attack and assured him that nothing like this will happen on his soil again. In other words, that's a clear warning to Israel to not do this again. You might remember how angry Donald Trump was when Israel attacked Iran without America's go-ahead a few months ago. He ended up swearing in front of the TV cameras. That was when Israel had attacked an American foe. Now they've bombed a close American friend. And President Trump has spoken to Benjamin Netanyahu. We can only imagine how a lot of that conversation went, although we were told in this statement that Mr. Netanyahu said that he wanted to make peace, and Donald Trump thinks what he called this unfortunate incident might be an opportunity for peace, but it's extremely difficult to understand how this could advance the peace process that America and Donald Trump was so deeply enmeshed in before this attack.